My name is Margaret Hayes. I am 72 years old, and I've lived in this quiet Baltimore neighborhood for 47 years. The house knows every season of my life, the laughter of raising children, the silence after they left, and the steady rhythm of a marriage I thought would last forever. That night changed everything. It was 3 in the morning when I heard the desperate knocking. Not the polite tap of a neighbor, but the frantic pounding of someone in crisis. I wrapped my robe around me and hurried to the door, my heart already racing. When I opened it, my daughter Rachel collapsed into my arms. At T45. Rachel had always been so strong, so independent. But now she was trembling, mascara streaking down her bruised cheek, her lips swollen and bleeding. Her silk blouse was torn at the shoulder. "Mama," she sobbed, and that word broke something in me. She hadn't called me that since she was a little girl. I pulled her inside, held her close, and felt rage kindle in my chest like I'd never known before. We sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd bandaged her scraped knees and celebrated her college acceptance. Now I was pressing eyes to her face while she told me what her husband Michael had done. "There's a woman," Rachel whispered, staring at her hands. "Her name is Vanessa. She works at his firm. I found the messages on his phone last week." I stayed quiet, letting her speak. Tonight, I confronted him. I asked him to end it, to try to save our marriage. "We have 15 years together, Mama." 15 years, her voice cracked. He laughed at me, said Vanessa makes him feel alive. Said I'd gotten old and boring. The ice pack trembled in my hand. When I told him I wanted a divorce, he lost control. He grabbed me, shook me, then he hit me. She touched her swollen cheek gently. He said if I left him, he'd make sure I got nothing. His family has money, connections. He said he'd destroy me in court. I set down the ice pack very carefully. "Rachel," I said, my voice steady and calm. "Look at me, baby." She lifted her tear-stained face. "Do you trust your mama?" She nodded. "Then go upstairs to your old room, rest, and let me make one phone call." I waited until Rachel was safely upstairs before I dialed. The phone rang 3 times before a sleepy voice answered. "Grace, it's Margaret. I need you." Grace Patterson had been my best friend since 1978. We'd met at a church social, both young mothers trying to figure out this thing called life. She'd stood by me through my own struggles, through the year my late husband David lost his job, through my battle with breast cancer, through everything. Grace was also a retired family law attorney. Within an hour, she was at my door, her silver hair hastily pinned up, her sharp eyes already working through strategies. We sat in my living room, speaking in low voices while Rachel slept upstairs. "The bruising needs to be photographed and documented," Grace said, pulling out her phone. "We'll need a police report, though I know that's hard. And we need to move fast before he has time to hide assets." "What are her chances?" I asked. Grace looked at me with the honesty of 47 years of friendship. "With his family's money, it'll be a fight." "But Margaret, we've fought before, haven't we?" I thought of all the battles we'd won together. The school board meeting where we'd fought for better resources. The neighborhood watch we'd organized. The women we'd helped through the years. "Yes," I said. "We have." "Then the plan starts now." The next morning, Rachel was frightened, but determined. We took photos of every bruise, every mark. Grace accompanied us to the police station, where a kind young officer took Rachel's statement with patience and respect. Then we went to the bank. Rachel had always kept her own account, thank God. We moved her money to a new bank, one Michael didn't know about. Grace made calls to her network of attorneys, financial advisors, investigators. "He's having an affair," Grace explained to me privately. "That's leverage in Maryland. And if he's been using marital funds to wine and dine this Vanessa, well, that's even better for us." But it was what came next that surprised me most. That evening, Grace's nephew James came by. He was a private investigator, a quiet man in his 50s with kind eyes. "Mrs. Hayes," he said, shaking my hand, "Aunt Grace told me about your daughter. I want to help. We can't afford." I started. He held up his hand. "My own mother went through something similar 30 years ago. Nobody helped her. She lost everything." His jaw tightened. "I don't charge for cases like this. Consider it my way of balancing the scales." I felt tears prick my eyes. Over the next 3 weeks, a quiet plan unfolded. James followed Michael, documented every meeting with Vanessa. Dinners at expensive restaurants, paid for with the credit card Rachel had helped earn money for. Weekend trips to hotels. gifts purchased at jewelry stores. Grace built the legal case brick by brick. Character witnesses who'd seen Rachel's kindness and dedication. Financial records showing how she'd supported Michael through graduate school. Evidence of his controlling behavior, his anger, his manipulation, and me. I did what mothers do. I held my daughter when she cried. I reminded her of her worth when she doubted herself. I cooked the foods that comforted her, and I sat with her in silence when words weren't enough. One night, Rachel said to me, "Mama, I feel so stupid." How did I not see who he really was? I took her hand. Baby, love makes us hopeful. It makes us want to believe the best in people. That's not stupidity. That's humanity. The fault is his, not yours. The divorce proceedings were brutal, just as Grace had warned. Michael's attorneys tried every trick. They painted Rachel as unstable, as a gold digger, as a woman scorched by jealousy. But Grace was ready for every move. She presented the photographs of Rachel's injuries, the police report, the credit card statements showing thousands spent on Vanessa, the testimony of neighbors who'd heard Michael's raised voice, his threats. Most damning of all was the recording Rachel had, on Grace's advice, installed a security camera in her home before returning to collect her belongings. Michael had shown up drunk, threatening her, breaking furniture. He'd said terrible things, admitting to the affair, to the violence, all captured clearly on video. The judge was a woman in her 60s, with steel grey hair and no-nonsense eyes. When Michael's attorney tried to dismiss the video, she fixed him with a look that could freeze fire. "Counselor," she said coldly, "I suggest you advise your client to settle. Because if this goes to trial, I assure you, he will not like my ruling." 3 months after that terrible night, Rachel sat in my kitchen again. But this time, she was smiling. The settlement was fair. More than fair. The house, half of Michael's, retirement, and support payments. Michael had tried to fight it, but his attorneys convinced him it was better than what a jury might decide. Vanessa left him, Rachel said, stirring her tea. Apparently when his money got tight, she wasn't so interested anymore. I didn't smile at that. There was no joy in someone else's pain, even Michael's. But there was satisfaction in justice. "How do you feel?" I asked my daughter. She thought about it. Really thought about it. "Free," she finally said. "Scared sometimes, but free. Like I can breathe again." A year later, I sat on my porch with Grace, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and cold. "Do you remember that night?" I asked her. "I'll never forget it," Grace said. "When you called me, I heard something in your voice I'd never heard before." "What was that?" "Pure steel," she said. "A mother's love is gentle until someone hurts her child. Then it's the strongest force in the world." Rachel had rebuilt her life. She'd gone back to school, was working on a master's degree in counseling. "I want to help other women," she told me. "Women who feel trapped like I did." Michael had moved to another state, alone. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd lost his temper at work, been demoted. The universe, it seemed, had its own justice.as for Vanessa. I never met her, never wanted to. She was just a symptom of Michael's character, not the cause. On Rachel's 47th birthday, we gathered in my backyard. Rachel, Grace, James, and a few other friends who'd stood by us through everything. We ate cake and laughed and told stories. At one point, Rachel stood up and clinked her glass. "I want to thank my mother," she said, her eyes shining. When I came to her that night, broken and afraid, she didn't just comfort me. She showed me how to fight. She reminded me that love isn't just soft and gentle. Sometimes love is fierce. Sometimes love is protective. Sometimes love means standing up and saying enough. She looked at me, and I saw in her face not just my daughter, but a strong, resilient woman who'd survived and grown. "Mama," she said, "you made one call that night and told me the plan starts now." That plan didn't just save me from Michael. It saved me from giving up on myself. I couldn't speak. I just stood and hugged her while our friends clapped and Grace wiped away tears. Sometimes now, late at night, I think about that moment. When Rachel collapsed into my arms, I think about the rage I felt, the fear, the determination, but mostly, I think about the lesson it taught me. We spend our lives teaching our children to be kind, to be forgiving, to see the good in people. And those are important lessons. But sometimes, we also need to teach them that kindness doesn't mean accepting cruelty. Forgiveness doesn't mean tolerating abuse. Seeing good in people doesn't mean ignoring when they're causing harm. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is stand up and fight.